Good afternoon and welcome to this Wednesday, January the 9th edition of Westman Newsline. I'm Dylan Donald alongside Christopher Nicholson and Randy Joseph Lilly. In today's news, there has been another case of cyberbullying here in Brandon, and a man who attacked a child and family services worker has been sentenced to house arrest. And Chris will be in with sports. Chris, I think the Grinch has taken up residence in the Wheat Kings dressing room.
That's right, Dylan. The Wheat Kings continue to slide in the new year, but they had a great effort last night for most of the game. As well, they released a veteran defenseman Tuesday afternoon. I'll be with all those details and more later in sports.
Thanks, Chris. And Randy will be in with weather. Randy, 10 words or less. What can you tell me about the weather?
It's very cold, and I hate it. Counting is hard. Currently in Brandon, it's minus 14 and partly cloudy. Winds are out of the west at 4 kilometers per hour. I'll have all your weather details later in the show.
Thanks, Randy. A lawyer who specializes in social media law says what happens in cyberspace doesn't always stay in cyberspace. Brian Bowman says things people say on their computer can land them in a court of law. Brandon police have charged a 17-year-old girl with uttering threats to kill or injure a 14-year-old girl. Police say the older girl had allegedly made the threats on Facebook after a dispute about some property. Judge Shauna Hewitt-Michta has decided not to give a jail sentence to a 47-year-old man who attacked a child and family services worker, but has charged the man to 6 months house arrest, 75 hours of community service, and then 1 year's probation. The man cannot be named because it would identify his two young girls, aged 11 and 12. Michta heard the CFS worker received a complaint that the single, unemployed father spent all of his time on the computer and had no food in the house. When the worker came to investigate, the man wouldn't allow him to speak with his daughters. When the worker asked if they were okay, the man threw him down a flight of stairs, then yelled, "You're dead," as he kneed and punched the man in the face. The worker, who suffered a fractured nose, managed to escape. Michta said the father has tried to change by taking anger management classes, going back to school, and by meeting with psychologists and psychiatrists. CFS has provided him with food vouchers and has helped the man include his daughters in several activities, including skating and horseback riding. A new report by Manitoba Children's Advocate says the number of children who died while they were involved in Manitoba's child welfare system went up last year. The latest annual report from Darlene McDonald was released yesterday. It says that in 2011-2012, her office investigated the deaths of 61 children who were involved in the child and family services. That is up from 53 deaths that were reviewed in the previous year. McDonald says her office is particularly concerned with the number of children who died in what she described as unsafe sleeping environments, such as sleeping with their parents. Taxpayers have spent nearly $15 million over the last 8 years maintaining the vacant Capion Barracks site in Winnipeg. A few years ago, the Department of Defense reported that the annual cost to maintain the former military base, including the 41 buildings, was $1.95 million. A source in the Department of Defense recently said that dropped to $1.5 million in 2011 when the 6 buildings that were still being used were emptied. The federal government had been planning to sell the property, but in mid-December, a federal court ruled Ottawa was wrong to do so without consulting 4 First Nations communities. The Aboriginal bands want to build an urban reserve on the property. Stray dogs on God Lakes First Nation had been rounded up and shot after the body of a teenage girl was found Sunday morning on a snowy trail. The dead teen had been identified by residents as Leah Kenter Anderson, believed to be a 15-year-old girl. RCMP haven't said much about the death on the reserve, which is 550 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg, and haven't confirmed the gender or identify of the deceased. But the residents say the remains were found after the girl was reported missing on Friday night. One resident said the dogs were shot out of fear the girl may have been mauled to death. It isn't clear who made the decision to shoot the dogs. The president of the Manitoba Métis Federation says a court ruling that classifies Métis as Indians should result in access to more federal services. But David Chartrand also says his people are Métis, not Indians, and the ruling doesn't mean they will be covered by the Indian Act because he says Métis people won't allow it. Chartrand says the ruling means Ottawa should stop treating Métis like second-class citizens and stop fighting with the province about who is responsible for them. After a 6-year legal battle, disabled veterans have reached a tentative settlement with Ottawa worth almost $890 million. The class action lawsuit was launched on behalf of Dennis Manouche and others whose long-term disability benefits were reduced by the amount of the monthly Veterans Affairs disability pensions they received. Lawyers say the proposed settlement includes nearly $425 million in retroactive payments to veterans that date back to 1976. And with that, let's take a look at where today's money markets are currently sitting.
Westman Newsline, produced by the IMA Media Production students of Assiniboine Community College. Local news, weather, and sports on Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline, airing at 1 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on WCG TV.
Taking a look at international news now, the deadly shooting at a Connecticut elementary school has ignited the debate on gun control in the United States. Vice President Joe Biden is holding a series of meetings and looking for ways to stem gun violence in the country. Ed Payne has the story.
Vice President Joe Biden is heading up a task force looking at ways to reduce gun violence. Today he will meet with victims groups and gun safety organizations. A representative from the National Rifle Association will sit down with the Vice President on Thursday. The NRA says it's sending a representative to, quote, hear what they have to say. The National Shooting Sports Foundation, another major gun rights group, will also participate in the meetings. White House Press Secretary Jake Carney says their input is important.
We look forward to hearing from a variety of organizations and civic groups and others who have insights into this problem.
President Obama created the panel following the deadly shooting last month at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a strong supporter of tighter gun laws, is advising the vice president.
I think all of us know that Joe Biden is not a shrinking violet, particularly when it comes to crime and the gun problem in this country and the number of murders.
Walmart, a major seller of firearms, was invited to discuss gun control with Biden. An official said they could not make the meeting but would continue ongoing conversations with the White House. I'm Ed Payne reporting.
Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard says that today is, quote, a very dangerous day. She's referring to the dozens of bushfires blazing across the southeastern part of her country. More than 100 homes have been burned on the island of Tasmania, and 100 people are still missing there. And at least 20 fires in New South Wales were not contained at all. The very hot and very dry conditions there have put a lot of property and people at risk. That's it for news, but stay tuned. Randy's up next with Newsline Weather.
Good afternoon with Newsline Weather. I'm Randy Joseph Lilly. We had a wonderful day yesterday. Sadly, we must leave Tuesday in the dust, or in this case, snow, and talk about today. Currently in Brandon, it is minus 14 and partly cloudy. Winds are out of the west at 4 kilometers per hour. This evening, we will improve to minus 6, and the sky will still be partly cloudy. The winds will be out of the southeast at 15 kilometers per hour. Sleep during the day and stay up overnight as we will see a beautiful minus 4. Winds are out of the southwest at 10 kilometers per hour and will feel like a light breeze based on what we've experienced lately. Taking a look at our radar image with no precipitation in sight, we may as well have a tumbleweed rolling across the screen. Maybe for next season. Moving to our satellite image, there is a lot of heavy cloud cover throughout the week. Moving to our 5-day forecast, I'll let you take a look at our full board. Tomorrow could be a little scary as we're expecting to see some ice pellets, which could make our roads very treacherous. Temperatures will drop off by the end of the week, just in time for the weekend. Hip, hip, hooray. Now let's take a look around the region. Winnipeg is in at minus 5, Portage at minus 8. Dauphin and Carberry are both in at minus 11. Neepawa is in at minus 10. Minnedosa at minus 14, and Verdun is also in at minus 10 degrees. Seasonal norms for this time of year are a high of minus 13 and a low of minus 23. The record was set way back last year when we hit 4.5 degrees. The record low is in 1993 when we hit minus 41.2. If you don't remember what it was like, basically everything froze, including eyelids, and it wasn't fun. Compared to that, today certainly looks much better. We're currently sitting at -14 with a partly cloudy sky. That's it for weather, but stick around. Chris is up next with Newsline Sports.
Good afternoon with Newsline Sports. I'm Christopher Nicholson. The Brandon Wheat Kings continued to struggle last night when they dropped 7-2 decision at home to the Calgary Hitmen. The Hitmen had a great start to the game, tallying 9 seconds into the opening period. Jordy Maguire and Richard Njeslib scored for the Wheats, who dropped to the last place in the Eastern Conference with 14, 25, and 4 record. Zane Jones extended his 6-game goal scoring streak for Calgary, who leapfrogged into the first place East with the win. Corbin Bowes made 23 saves in the Brandon net, while the Hitman counterpart, Chris Drieger, turned aside 27 shots. The Wheaties welcomed forward Michael Furland and Alessio Bertaggia to line up, but were without veteran defenseman Riley Miller, who was released by the club earlier on Tuesday to make room for the remaining 20-year-olds Tyler Yaworski, Michael Furland, and Nick Buonosisi. Winnipeg Jets captain Andrew Ladd says with the lockout-shortened NHL season on the horizon, a good start is more important than ever. The first season in Winnipeg saw the Jets stumble out at the gate, struggle to get .500, and miss the playoffs. As the relocated Atlanta Thrashers prepare for their second season, they know time isn't on their side. Ladd said they will have to cope mentally with a schedule that could mean teams playing every other day. The schedule has yet to be confirmed and released yet, but the Jets were busy painting the logos and lines on the ice for the MTS Center Tuesday as players continued to arrive in town. NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly says training camps are expected to open Sunday, but he probably can't say where the season will be open the following week. Washington General Manager George McPhee says he was told of one schedule that has the Capitals opening with 2 games at home and 3 on the road. The ratification process for the new collective bargaining agreement Ratification for the new bargaining agreement begins today while the owners are voting a Board of Governors meeting in New York, while the players are expected to vote electronically tomorrow and Friday. The Toronto Maple Leafs are making a stunning move just days before the regular season is expected to start. A source said that the general manager, Brian Burke, is out as general manager of the NHL team. He held the position for just over 4 years. The Maple Leafs have missed the playoffs in every season under his watch. Toronto is coming off a disappointing 13th place to finish in the Eastern Conference. Before joining the Maple Leafs, Burke previously served as general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, Anaheim Ducks, and Hartford Whalers. And that's all for sports.
Thanks, Chris. And that's all we have for you today, but stay tuned for more for Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline.